Good evening, warm welcome back. It'd be great to know how it's going, and there was some kind of homework. Don't know if you would like to remind of the homework from yesterday. You can type it in the chat, and you can let us know how it's going. Meanwhile, we're going to start with a review of Paris from yesterday. At least I think we are.
In this spiritual model, we see the physical world as a drama stage. The soul is the actor, and the body is like a mask. There is natural freedom from expectations in a story. This is easy with spiritual sight, the paras intellect, broad, subtle, and divine. This is a big secret to life. We see everything is good and everyone is good. With paras glasses, this is a drama, it becomes neutral. Starting position, all are divine. In contrast, pata is stuck with just the story. Attention on the home and the starting position is like light. With pata, light is just on the drama, so gets impressed and attached. So in essence, we have the option lower consciousness of the beggar, the victim, and the slave, or the higher consciousness, the invisible traveler, who is never a beggar, never a victim, never a slave. That paras spiritual sight helps with this. The invisible traveler comes to the physical world with the feeling to give.
What is your experience, your feeling of that perspective? One is coming to give, and anything else that came up? We also had this homework of telling the story of the chicken and the eagle, and you had a chance to share it with two others. And then there was the 4 steps. So this muscle to build the sequence of the invisible traveler, and then the observer seeing from that view, realizing that is another dimension, a story, and then coming beyond. And so those feelings of complete emotional freedom, a different perspective. When we come back, I really like this challenge we all have to grapple with the invisible. And Einstein even had a thought. He said, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. So I'll leave you with that riddle. Welcome to all who just joined, and handing over to Prashant. Good evening.
Hello, and good evening and good afternoon. So we will start with a minute of silence. And during this minute, we quickly remind that it is the journey of the invisible traveler. We are really seeing the radical reality of this. Invisible traveler is the invisible actor. and completely different to what we thought. We are not in the world of camel and elephant, but we are awake to the reality behind the camel and elephant. As if we are rediscovering this once again, including the self. And the truth of this invisible traveler is extraordinary. His world is eternal. He is immortal. Everyone is. We can afford to remain completely carefree. We understand the immense value of Paras. Paras helps us to go beyond that pettiness. As we continue on our journey, we remember this secret and immensely beautiful truth. Thank you. We shall come back to our whiteboard. Encouragement for those who are able to come in the light and camera. You are encouraged. It is a little opportunity for us to meet and interact. Also, feel free to type your thoughts and questions. That is the idea. Yeah. Today we are going to see another rather important subject. We call it the subject of identification. By that we mean false identification. That is what we are interested in. We have seen that our worldview is that we got our home, eternal home. We also have seen the story world here and all the limitations of that story world. We are understanding who is the true self, and this true self just passing through this physical world. We have seen the dotted green line, and when we cross this dotted green line, we are confused. That is the line of ignorance, and that foreign world and the story world, as it becomes our world, we live in the story. Do you know anyone who is living in the story? You have to ask a few people, check if they are living in the story.
Maybe ourselves also.
Yes. So, and this is like a big scandal if your some friend was to acting as a camel, was really to believe he's a camel and worried about dragon, and you will really be concerned. You will call the doctors. Here collectively we all are in this state, including the doctors. So it is the area which we need to address first before trying to solve and save the world. We first have to get ourselves out of this confusion, extreme confusion that is represented by this dotted green line. We also spoke of the upward spiral, that those four-step program and even 1 minute program, that is all aimed to take us up the spiral. That is the reason we are here, and to first address this major problem in our attitudes, understanding. We have also seen so far the downward spiral. It all starts like this, little incremental, just getting impressed, just owning something, creating little attachment, and one want more. All this draws us in that ignorance and also bondage. But this bondage takes us to this next level. That is what we call identification. And we will discuss this subject of identification in some more detail. Appears to be in some countries in a commonly used word. In Cambridge some years ago, university had a conference, a 3-day conference on identification. But we tried to understand what was going on, what was discussed. And it is very superficial, the discussion, and it is seen as completely natural state. This is the way the Lockic world is doing this. So the word identification, when I first came across this word, English word, I asked what it means. And the example given to me, if there is a cat is something is stuck in the throat of the cat, and I feel it is happening to me, that is identification. I never saw a cat getting, so I don't never had that experience. I did not quite understand. But a good example of this identification I found with someone by name Mark Chapman. Mark Chapman liked John Lennon, and he was worshipping John Lennon for more than 10 years. And in time, he started to feel he himself is John Lennon. His association with John Lennon, he had hairstyle like John Lennon. He was listening to John Lennon all the time, and then it became not just subconscious, consciously he started to feel he himself is John Lennon. Another friend of ours is an actor, and he was playing a part, in some drama performance. He was acting every day, in this part, in this role. And in his words, that role started to take over him. This is like, say, he was some other part, but say, let us say James Bond, he was acting. And in some years, he started to feel that role was taking over him. At home, he would feel as if he's that role. And doctors told him to stop acting altogether because it was seen as identification crisis. And that is a term used in the psychology world. Now let us take another example, and very, very simple. And let us say there is one plant, and this is the example I like to give. And I am looking after this plant for last few days. I'm a guest here, and I'm just asked to look after that plant. I'm quite happy to look after the plant. And people praise that plant. I like that here to hear the praise. And today someone comes and says that plant is ugly. And I feel a little bit offended. Don't like to hear that. They did not say anything about me. They just said the plant is ugly, and I take it personally. Why? What is the reason? Do you want to tell why I take it personally? They said nothing about me. They are just talking about a plant.
Somehow you feel connected to that plant, like it's a reflection on you in some way.
Yes.
You have attachment to it because the plant is a personal possession now and holds emotive connection.
Yes. Yeah, very good. So what really happens? It shows us some human psychology. We like to claim things for our own reasons. For any smallest reason, we want to claim. So consciously, subconsciously, I start to feel that plant is part of me. It is all subconscious to start with. Just because I'm involved with it, it appears, start to give myself self-respect based on the plant. Each praise that comes, you are taking it for you. And then next thing that happens, if it is all subconscious, you are giving birth to an I based upon the plant. I. This is what we call identification. So when the I, how do you know there is an I there? Then whatever that is said about a plant, you are taking it as if it is personal. Whenever there is a personal, the reference, you are identifying with it. So praise becomes your praise, criticism becomes your criticism, because there is an I based upon that, in this case, the plant. Big question for us. Do we identify like this? Do you identify?
Yes,
Let us say
absolutely.
here is the world. Yeah.
Just agree. People like identification, like to identify. That's just a comment.
So here is the world with all the goodies, lots of things in this world. And as we said, you are that invisible traveler passing through this world. And you are just associated with many, many things here. And what has been happening, this downward spiral has been in action for a while. And you are associated with this. Do you want to give examples of what you identify with, or what human beings may identify with? Do you want to think of some examples?
One added immediately in terms of nationality, and now I've had gender, house, car, family, profession, what we do. Can it be said to be like possessive, to be possessive?
Yeah, possessive is my is one area. Here we are talking about I, another. It is like little further down the line.
The labels that we're given by society, by our family, qualities, race, societal class.
Yes, so we identify, and you will see it very in a big way. You identify with the body. So anything says spoken about the body, it becomes it almost you don't even question it that this body is I. This you might notice some clothes, things that you are. Someone says this plant, this shirt is nice, this dress is nice, or it is ugly. You mind it. You take it personally. People around you can be children, relations, friends. Sometimes some celebrity that you identify. You might not even you have met him even like some leader of a country. People identify with them, deeply that they take it personally. Some may identify with the cooking that you have done. There are some stories of violence. Someone did not like the cooking that was done by the wife. And it ends up in a major crisis. And I identify with the religion. We had one event it was a university with religious, the organ institution was of one religion. And I was discussing with them, can we practice the religion without identifying with it? And they realized that a real problem of their religion, they don't practice the religion, but they identify with the religion. But this is the story with all religions. So all people, human beings, they have not even understood their religion. They may not even make effort to read their scripture even properly. But they identify with religion. And this identification, we need to see how absurd it is. And I have come across people, those who identify with the dog in a big way. Dog, and person, his whole self-respect is based on the dog. Someone criticizes the dog, that is end of. They are his enemies. Those who like the dog, they are his friends. And identify with shoes. This is like an intellectual degradation. Letter I cannot be used so casually. There is you cannot use the I to a car, and you cannot use the I to some shoes and dog. It is like not just confusion, it is a degradation of this, of our intellect. So it goes on. People identify with ideas. One is religion, but in the science world, you will find people identify with the different theories, different opinions. In political world, once you make some statement, then you identify with it, even though it may be absurd and it may be proved wrong. And but deeper inside, you want to prove yourselves right. Very few are able to say that is wrong. We should move further. That is not the right opinion. And that there is a tendency to identify with objects, with opinions, with people, possessions, place, country. In the whole department, identification is absurd, and it only creates problem to us. Why? Why it creates problem? Does it create problem? You can tell in one word what is the real problem of this false identification.
One word, or if you need to use two, it's okay. Confusion, division, conflict. It's temporary, so it's, yeah.
And what is the problem? I agreed it is based on temporary, but what is the real problem from it?
It's limitation, always changing. First thing was confusion. That's quite a big problem.
The real problem is that our insecurity is now, the moment we create any level of attachment in that world, drama world, it makes us insecure. But when I create identity, that insecurity is multiplied many times more. Because I means it becomes like totally personal. It is not just you are going to lose it. With the word might, there was a fear of losing it. But when the I is there, if that I is destroyed, you feel as if something in you is going to die. Like, say, those who identify with religion. Why should there be this energy to fight, to fight, declare a war? Why does that come? Because deeper inside, it is interpreted as you are going to die. Whatever you are identifying with, someone loses a job, and he may know that he will survive. He got enough wealth, but it is like a death for the person, and it is never easy. Someone is a minister, someone is in a certain position, and he has to live. It's like a death. If that I is created, it is a death. If that I is not there, then it is just a change. It doesn't, there is no fear of death. So this insecurity is multiplied, and if insecurity is multiplied, all our reactions from there that we spoke of, whether it is stress, whether it is anger, depressions, envy, desperations, all of these multiply. They are all bigger. Lots of, in fact, 100% of angers, wars, conflicts, and so also depressions, big envy that happens, big stress that people then have to go to the doctors. The reason for that is identification. I can almost say 100% of this, the cause is identification. People, the moment we cross the line, there is some level of stress and all, but they deal with it. But if they have to go to the doctors for that, it means it is much more. And those kind of situations, the cause is identification. It is also good news because if you spot the identity, what you are, somehow if you are able to drop that identity, you become free from it completely. I've come across people who said in 1 second they realized what they are identifying with and saw the absurdity of it, and all the anger that was associated with it just disappeared. He just saw the absurdity of what he is doing. And this is what you will observe also. Little bit introspective, and we have to observe. We give the example of identifying with cooking and all. It is not, people don't normally observe what they are identifying with. Say someone visits you and says, he enjoys the meal, but he says, I didn't like the food, and someone else prepares better. But maybe he's very honest. But if you are upset by it, and if it creates a reaction in you, it is not the fault of others, it is your fault. And this is the way to observe. It is my fault. What am I identifying with? And then you will observe what you are identifying with. And that gives you a chance to see the absurdity. As was said before, it is an intellectual degradation. Here is the invisible traveler, and he has his own truth and self-respect. Why should he take this based upon something that is of the story? And it is like confusion, but much more than that. But there are people who say, wow, it's how absurd. But moment you see that, that identity drops. Those identities exist in darkness. When you create light, when you bring clarity, they dissolve, they disappear. At a simple level, these identities make our life very superficial. We are working just to get a little bit attention to these identities. Try to get little praise here, little compliments here. And people also try to feed each other's identity. They want to say, oh, this photograph is nice, and this carpet is nice, and a curtain is nice. And then sometimes just to feed each other's identities. Do you want to say anything?
Nice that there is at least some strength to deal with these identities, because it can come suddenly, like you think you don't identify with, say, cooking, and then suddenly this situation comes where it's rejected. But at least you get to use that situation to observe this. It could be a huge reaction, but in that moment, you're not acting it out, but you're kind of observing, gosh, in a way you can be thankful for that situation that highlighted. And as you say, the more we experience the richness of the true self-respect, then it can snap back. But whatever it is, you're objectively observing it rather than getting lost in thinking it's you, which is what identity is, isn't it? You have no distance from the situation at all. So like a dog would just bark, you get to, not go into the barking and biting, but come back. Someone has written, in the family, females are compared by how they cook. So it's quite a relevant example. And
Yes.
taking responsibility, like you mentioned, we can take that responsibility for how we react. It means you're empowered rather than blaming all the time. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, nice. Like there's some spiritual effort makers sometimes observe, I'm making effort for so long, I'm doing everything, but all of a sudden anger comes. I can't really say I have become free from anger. Some make them like a promise, I will be free from anger from today, but anger comes. To do the job properly, if we want to be free from anger, we need to look at the root. Not enough, just have the determination, but along with that, we need to go behind and little introspection to check what are the identities in myself. What am I identifying with? And the moment you see that, that is so powerful. You notice one is you observe, and you also observe the absurdity. Like we were giving the example, someone identifies with a dog. I can see that, but that person need to see. Only then he can be free. Otherwise, anyone can manipulate him. Just praise the dog and he will get business. Someone just happens to criticize the dog, he creates enemies, unnecessary. And some people are very noble, many things they happen, and like a criticism or loss, and they are stepping beyond it. They are above it. They don't take even slightest identification there. That is the feeling you get. They are very noble. Their friendship remains, love remains, because their self-respect is at another level. Let me give a couple of examples. I know one girl, and she at one time she said, before she goes to work, she changes, she tries 8 different dresses, she said. And I was thinking, what would make anybody to try 8 different dresses? Of course, we can say the person is identifying with the body appearance, but why so much? Everyone is identifying with why it is taking such a form. And at another time, I realized that she, as a young girl, everyone would tell her she's pretty, she's very beautiful. That was what was going on. And so this poor girl ends up creating a big identity, that it was getting bigger and bigger. And now she goes to work, and now she's, not a little girl, but now, and there are other people there. And so, no one says anything about her appearance. And this big identity feels something is a bit wrong about. So she has to go and buy another dress. And still no one says anything. She gets disturbed by this. And I could sort of see how life can be wrecked by just creating this big identity. All these identities together, we call them ego in our ordinary language, or false ego. And identities, they are false identities. And in our broad language, when ego is used, we are meaning these different identities. So ego is not just one person has got an ego. Ego has got many heads. Identity can be based upon other relations also. So ego is created, reflected glory from someone else. John Lennon is another example. In one interview with BBC, this was interview 1975, and I heard the recording of this interview. And he says, "My life is a torture." And next sentence he says, "Do you want to make a guess?" Why? He answers why his life is a torture. My life is a torture. With all his success and fame, he says, my life is a torture. And why? Why is it a torture? He says, because of the ego. He had that discrimination. And his torture was, he was saying in that interview, when someone else releases music, but they didn't discuss with him, they didn't show him first, he was not involved in it, then he feels upset by it. He says they should involve me. If I'm not part of it, it is suddenly a problem. But he had sense to realize it is because of the ego. That was one example. But he says in everywhere, life is a torture. Every small things bother me. And that is exactly what happens when we go in this direction of false identities. Small things. Our life becomes petty. Thinking about small things and taking sorrow because of small things, and then acting at that level. Yeah, let us hear some other thoughts. Sarah, want to add anything?
I feel like this subject can be revised anytime. We may also know the ideas, but it's self-respect based upon what is completely free from the material world or the box. Has otherwise any emptiness, the little bit of purchase, a little bit of feeling good based upon the limited will definitely feed and grow identity, because we're taking nourishment there. So it's great, because then all we have now is really self-observation, and then in the contrast, or to observe, we're really calling it meditation, to observe that life of the invisible traveler. Then from that strength, everything else will be very clear. But it will continue, won't it? Just like weeds come in the garden, they come for everyone. This world is a sort of a world that can promote this false identity.
Yes. And let us see, if I was to take a photograph of our mind, selfie, the selfie of the soul. And then that is real self. So it should be called, that is the real selfie. So you will see a picture bit like this, where there are many I inside. I based on the body, I based on the dress, I based on children, and different I. But then some I are very big. If he is the governor, there will be a big I based on that. And as that whole gets bigger and bigger, it is at a price. The true I becomes small and small. It remains like a dot. We all start from a position like this. In other words, we start with zero false identities. Why should there be any false identities at all? You don't identify with the plant, and it is a foreign world. And so even my is completely absurd. So we start with 100% clean. When we are in this space, he sees himself as an invisible guest. He's just a visitor in that world. He's flying past. Invisible visitor. Involved, associated with. Even Prashant part is associated with it. He himself is behind this. He is the observer of this. So that is what is represented by this. But then just one eye takes birth in us, but it then gets mushroom phenomena. They bring in other identities, and it sort of grows in all directions. They all get bigger and bigger, and they completely take over. That true identity never disappears, but it remains like a dot. Just it is there. Seed remains, but 24 hours his life is dominated by these false identities. I'll give you one example, that gives us an idea of these identities. One lady, she said her mother had died, and she has a job, and she goes to work. She says, I'm completely normal. When I go to work, I'm completely normal. I do my job. I come home, and when I'm at home, I cry, cry, cry. All time I'm crying. And next day I go to work, I'm completely normal. I do my job. Everything goes normal as before. I come home, I cry, cry, cry. So how do you explain this? What is going on there? Why these two different behavior patterns?
Interesting, because it's like a switch, isn't it, between the two? So it's almost like the two different personalities. So someone's saying they are depressed, but during the work day or time, they're putting on a mask. That's one interpretation.
Yeah, one way to understand is when she is at work, that environment brings up the identity of the manager. That is dominant. All those identities are there inside, but at very active. I'm the manager. That is very much at the front. When she comes home, the identity of I, the daughter, that is very dominant. Because at home, that sort of reminds her of the atmosphere. And all these years, she was a nice daughter, and she was seen as a daughter in that place. So she is in this identity of the daughter, not the manager. And this daughter, her world has collapsed because daughter of this mother, and mother is not there. So it is like she's crying for herself. When she is at work, she is the manager, life is going very well, and the company is doing very well. So she's a manager there. So that is a different life she's experiencing. Inner life is different. You might observe this happening within you. One situation, one identity is at the top, at the front. And we need to check, in all situations, can we be in the truth? Can we be in the identity of the soul? Not these are all associated with the camel, identities. You are realizing behind all these details, there is an invisible actor, and that is coming here. Our spiritual effort is to create seconds and seconds and minutes where you are nourishing this. I'm literally meaning seconds and minutes. Understanding, we all get full marks for this. We have understood, and that's why we are here. But the real change happens by creating time and experiencing against current. No, naturally you don't come there. In that, it appears like a zero. If a person is used to feeling this, I'm the governor and I'm this and I did this. This camel is so famous and camel is so, she's doing so many good things and has achievements for life, such achievements, and like to think about all these achievements. And suddenly you're the actor, and none of this, nothing of the of camel is to do with you. That is seen as a uh, zero stage. But that is what you have to practice. For your ego, it appears like zero during those seconds. It quickly want to come out of it. Want to say I am nice camel. Very nice manager, nice whatever governor, successful, nice daughter, nice mother, all these, but they are all identities in confusion. And here you are saying, none of this. I am the soul, but not to mix it. Soul of the nice camel, no, soul, full stop. I am the observer of all of that. None of that is me. And this invisible actor, he has his world beyond, invisible world. To come orient yourselves with that reality. Paras helps. Paras is a huge help because you lift yourself out of this gross. Patthar-based spiritual effort, you dangle around in the camel world. And you just make it holy. You think the camel is nice camel. All this spiritual studies also to make the camel nice. That is the idea behind. And then everything is okay. Ego is also happy. But here, our job is to remove the ego. So that's where the reaction will come. But every second you are doing this, you are winning. It is continue to grow, and all the ego will continue to become weaker. So that's a huge success for us. Also, what will happen as this is getting bigger, we call it the soul consciousness. As the soul consciousness becomes dominant, you see the contrast. And now these false identities stand out for you. In the early stages, there is no contrast at all. And you don't even realize what it all appears totally normal. You are thinking yourself as a camel and nice camel, and everyone likes camel. That itself you think is spirituality. Everyone likes camel. Virtuous camel, that appears nice. Values, quite happy to do some values program and think on virtuous camel. Okay, let me ask one question. So you are making this effort 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You are progressing really well. And it is some of the ego are getting smaller also. and there is a good progress. What will happen after 3 weeks? Those who are hearing this question for the first time, they get first chance to answer. Let me ask Corinne, what will happen after 3 weeks? If someone is making this serious effort and progressing well, every day is reminding that I am the actor behind all this camel world. What will be the...
So Corinne or anyone can share. So one would be like super sensuous happiness, experiencing and moving forward. Security, they would feel less identities, more grounded in their true I. But I sense there's a twist in this question.
Yeah.
They would be that experience, and then maybe your question is what happens after that, is it? Someone else said lightness.
Yeah, all of this is good, but along with that, another progress will happen on another front, and that is new identity will take birth. I am very spiritual. I am soul conscious. All these neighbors don't know anything about this. All body conscious. And then you might be sitting in meditation, but you are sitting in meditation in this identity. This camel is so spiritual, so soul conscious, this camel. And feel very good about it. There's intoxication and all this going on, but it is on a wrong platform now. This is like a side street. We will be speaking on this subject of Maya. Maya constantly tries to take you off track, side street. So it is good for us to be aware of what is going to happen in 3 weeks' time. Today is the third day, no? So know a little bit what is going to come. So earlier, you possibly you will notice there was some ego based upon car, based upon some things. You tell people, about certain things. There was the ego about that is what life we know, connected with the camel. And now you see how superficial that life is. You don't talk about those things. You don't think about those things. You have become genuinely, attention at a soul level. And then you meet people and they keep talking about their shoes, keep talking about how much they paid for their shoes, and talk about their famous relations, and they talk about their diamond. And you say, wow, I must be I don't talk about this like this at all. I must be very humble. So now you create another identity. I am humble, camel. Humble is true. You are humble, it is true. But to create an identity on the humble, that is wrong. Because that takes you in the side street. Your identity is you are the invisible actor. That is your identity. So you need to have all the virtues, values, that is all good, and great skills, that is all good. But to use them for identity, then you are in the reverse gear. Do you know anyone in the reverse gear? Spiritual effort in the reverse gear. We all can find ourselves, but it is good to know. Spot it at an early level, then we can do something about it. Otherwise, at a fast speed in a reverse gear, not so helpful. Nice power in this. One person asked a question. We have all these identities, identity based on body and job and religion and what we saw here, based on being humble also, all these identities. She asked, which identity is difficult to remove? So what will be your answer? Which ego is difficult to remove?
Maybe a big one that's been there for a long time. Him be stubborn. Maybe a spiritual one, which actually might be newly formed. Around the name, the character, one's own associated role. So something close to home might be difficult. Someone said the one you can't see. The one we have understood that we have false identifications. Hence we can drop.
Yes, that's very good. Good to check all this. But one area, as you mentioned, the identity that you have not seen, it will not go at all. If there is some dirt somewhere in the house or somewhere, and you have not seen it, it will be there. It will stay there. Only when you see it, there is a possibility of removing it. So here, these false identities, all identities, they remain hidden. That's why they are there. People don't observe what is happening inside. Even in our case, we need that contrast. To in that contrast, we said these identities stand out, and we need to have this little introspection to observe what is happening here, what you identify with, and opportunity comes when anytime you take anything personally, little scratch, little offense taken, and little disappointment comes. Check what you're identifying with, and then you are very clever if you can spot it and drop it that time. If you just observe, it will go. Half the battle is won just by observing it. It shrinks instantly. It shrinks. As was said before, they exist in darkness. You shine light, they shrink. The most powerful way to then remove the remaining part of it is you have to nourish the soul awareness. There has to be replacement. If it is not replaced, they will then come back again in some other form, but they will come back. Because there is no soul consciousness. It can only be replaced by some other ego. In this whole structure of psychotherapy, their weakness is they don't have the method to remove these false identities. As we are seeing here, this false identities is the cause of all we are talking here 100% of the serious psychological problems in the world, 100%. And psychotherapy, they have got no method to remove it. So the whole methodology is sort of reshuffle, shift from one identity to another identity, that kind of effort. That is what happens. And so the results are doubtful, the temporary results. Long-term benefits are not very, very encouraging. Here we are acknowledging that all these identities have to be removed, not replaced with one by the other, but all these identities, whether it's based on virtues, based on your progress, based upon people, position, possession, they are based on camel. They all have to go. And you need to have this self-respect based on truth, the real you. Camel may be very famous and actor is not famous at all. But you value truth rather than this madness. You should see that intoxication based on the camel is madness.
You think that sometimes, because it starts with intoxication, and then, as you said, it's great, we can start to observe, a little scratch, a little insult, because there was some arrogance about a camel, which is completely absurd, but this is what it is. But even feeling diminished, belittled, humiliated is also identification when there's been a big aura around the camel, and then someone says elephant is much nicer. So it's both reactions, both ways, isn't it? One is the arrogance, and there's the other side as well.
Yes.
Someone is asking how to remove false identity, because when we're doing meditation and experiencing ourselves to be spiritual, this appears to also be the method to remove false identity.
Instead of saying I'm spiritual, which is the camel is spiritual, we become the spirit, the invisible actor. He doesn't say I'm spiritual, he's already the spirit. Camel says I'm spiritual. Camel remains camel. Camel never becomes the spirit.
In a way, it's a confusion of even in this, we're not using the letter I for that because of its association with the camel, and we can use an objective language. We are creating or reawakening a new notion of the self, which is the spirit. Is that right?
Yeah, nice.
So in a way, the objective language helps keep it clearer. At least we have an attempt at that. So maybe in a short while we can have a break for rooms. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, we'll create some time for some practice, but any other comments or questions before the rooms?
No other questions. There is a comment. Someone said that there are methods in art therapy. I don't know what that was connected to, but around identity. But maybe it's
Yeah. What I was emphasizing, all these false identities, they need to be removed, and they can be removed only when there is a replacement. And replacement happens when you create time to become soul conscious accurately. Your self-respect has to be from the invisible actor, not based upon the camel. if that subtlety is understood and you are working at that level, then you truly remove it. Until then, people are working with identities. They may not even use that language, but there is a work going on. But you just reshuffle the problem, replace one identity by another identity. That's all. That's the only thing happens, and it works temporarily, but the deeper problem is not addressed. It will create a few minutes of attention. And this sketch is very useful for us for our practice. The most important thing for us is paras. The game changer paras. Because now you can see the world beyond the camel and the elephant. With Patthar, that was so dominating. That's why it mattered, and you were having intoxication based on this. Now we are seeing the bigger map. We are seeing that whole of this physical world is a story, and that temporary nature of that story. Sense, the light comes, light of clarity. We are seeing the sky, we are seeing the true family of souls. That is the only family. In the camel world, there is a script, there is a story. It is not a family. And in the world, there is the true self. True self wakes up in this environment. True self is the invisible actor. He is the invisible witness. He is observing everything, but he is not part of this story. He also observes the sky, observes this great and beautiful truth of everyone. We see this very distinct shift of identity. The invisible actor completely separate to Prashant and everything else from the story. We see that distinct. And this true self is very happy with his world. Aware of his immortality and aware that he is totally beyond harm. Nothing in the story world can affect him, even the slightest. Thank you. Yeah, we'll have a rooms discussion.
The topic we could bring, what are the different kinds of false identification? What is the answer to false identification? Is that fine?
Yeah, nice.
It's anyway something to start. There's a rather big topic, wonderful opportunity. So we enjoy the discussion and we'll see you back in 10-15 minutes. Welcome back. And such an entertaining, in some ways, topic. It's like opening up a box of many, many aspects. So I hope we didn't stop any conversation prematurely. Maybe just a moment of pause, just to kind of come back to this I that's beyond naturally for a few moments. Thank you. Okay. Kind of feel the understanding of why we're doing what we're doing makes more clear when we see the slippery nature of this false identity, how we need to nourish the true I. It'd be nice if Sanjay would like to share a few thoughts with all of us. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you again. So, yes, we just heard in the room a few examples of those danger toys, as I call them, that we are playing with attachment to a dog, with attachment to some business that I built, and attachment to cakes. Sanjay can tell that he, the last few months, became a specialist making cakes, apple cakes, chocolate cake, and all my friends liked them very much and gave many compliments and expecting the next cake that I will bring. But one day, one I don't know, and he don't know me, taste the chocolate cake, and he said, "What's that?" Oops. Uh, and I said, "No, it's the best cake I ever did. Look, my friends." But it was for a minute like shock treatment to that false identity that I silently and invisibly built up around those cakes. And of course, I know the method and did immediately that shift because I recognized the false ID and I immediately replaced this danger toy with a safe toy of knowing who I really am, the actor, the invisible actor, the soul, with all its qualities, and no need to identify with anything else because those are dangers, because they have the danger to uh, take me to a wrong direction of sorrow, of suffering. And the true identity, which brings security back, because I depend on nothing for my happiness and lightness and peace. So yeah, next cake will be safe cake. Thank you.
And it's a good illustration for the creeping kind of identity when things are going well. It's like, okay, we don't think we're taking it, but actually it's something in there. So it's very relatable, even though in part of us sees absurdity, but another part is happy to hear that. And it's quite radical, isn't it? Rather someone be nice to one's associated role than criticize. It is quite a thing. So good to sort of be aware, and then there will be a safety, she said. Yeah, like that, safe toys. Since we are big children ultimately. Thank you. And any other reflections? It'd be lovely to hear from you, and you can share in the chat. Welcome back to Prashant.
So let us watch one video. Today you have not heard a story, so this is a story for today.
Just try and get some sound for this story at some point. Yes, hopefully this will work. No sound. Okay. Let's try one more thing. Maybe Prashant can share a bit more while I get the story ready. We tried something new and it didn't work. So you can share something and we'll be ready with the story in 2 minutes.
We all have things to practice, and right now to observe this invisible actor behind the world of camels, and ask, even in the last 10 minutes, was there awareness of the actor? The awareness is always there, but was it based upon the camel, or was it based upon the actor? We are using this word camel that helps us understand the absurdity. And even as we are watching this video, the silent checking is the true self conscious. As was said, only if it is done accurately, then we bring about a shift. Thank you. So we come to the video.
The idea of the higher consciousness is grasped easily through this story. The story is about an insect on a farm. This insect was on the back of a pig, and whilst crawling there, it finds a patch of mud. This insect was very impressed with this big land that it had discovered. It was busy building a fence and putting notices claiming the land by his name. One eagle comes down and asked the insect, "Do you want to come to the sky? Do you want to become an eagle?" The insect said, "Sky? What is there in the sky? What is it?" The eagle answered, "I will show you the world beyond the clouds. I will show you the sun. I will show you the valleys and the mountains. You will see the trees, the animals. I will also show you the pig. You will see the pig properly." The insect said, "That is extraordinary. But I've found this amazing land. I don't want to let go of this land. This is something very rare. I'd still consider coming to the sky, but after a week. By then I should be free. The eagle left, and as requested, returned after a week, and again asked the insect, "Do you want to come to the sky? Are you ready?" The insect replied, "I found more land. These are extraordinary times, new opportunities. So this time I can't come. I'm busy. I'm a success. But let's try again in another week's time." The eagle flies high in the sky and then returns again after a week and asks, "Are you ready to come to the sky?" The insect replied, "Now we have some cracks on my land. I'm busy fixing the cracks. I myself need help here. How can I just drop it all and go to the sky? I'd better not think of the sky." So the insect remained in the mud on the back of the pig. This story tells us about two levels of consciousness. Each and every one has these options. The insect has its own ideas of success and progress. It experiences its own happiness. But seen objectively, there is no comparison between the life of the eagle and the life of the insect. The eagle will never ever choose to settle down in the mud and consider it to be a success. All that is required is to come out of the successful insect syndrome. One who is sensible will not compromise the sky for even 1 second. His attitude will be, "I want to experience the sky now. I want to be the eagle this second. And if I have still got some things to do, fix cracks, help others, I will do that as an eagle." This is our story. We have the option to approach this world from a higher consciousness.
Thank you. So what we saw is this beautiful insight into human options, and that is the reality of the human population. And this major chaos is created just by the Patthar intellect. It literally brings them to the ant hill, and they are excited with the sticky sugar there in the ant world, busy, full-time busy, and oblivious of anything beyond. Just want to become a big ant in the ant world. And then here you are discovering a completely different option, and it is already there. It is, you don't even want, you have to become a eagle. It is not even that. You are already an eagle. You just drop the confusion and excitement of the sticky sugar in the ant world. But it is a whole thing. It is a game of the intellect, as was said. It will be nice to hear some of your observations, your questions, and we'll create some time for practice after this.
Yeah, it'd be
The
nice.
subject.
Yeah, I just was think it'd be nice to hear. It's impossible to watch it without thinking of identification. It feels like the insect identified with these tiny things, and he also the spiritual model is the identity of the one that has wings. So you see the danger, like someone wrote in the chat, harmful in the room discussion, and it is a degradation, as you mentioned. We identify with tiny things, we miss out on the big reality. There are no other comments right now. Thank you.
You know what was discussed, this whole subject of identification? It has power, a big power, for us to become free from all kinds of small sorrows, big sorrows, and angers, as we saw, and these big reactions that happen. All that is required is a few times. There's some situation comes, if you get even the slightest unpleasant reaction within you, observe what you're identifying. It works almost every time. And at the moment you are having the aim to observe, you notice what you're identifying, and the sorrow from that identity becomes almost zero subsequently, because you see the absurdity. Some other identities are there, and you might suddenly find yourselves in a situation where you are angry or annoyed or something, or sad, disturbed, and then you have to observe what you are identifying here. And that this whole story world, story of camel, elephant, and dragon, that has there is no intention to give sorrow to anyone. It's a story. A sorrow is taken by our identities, and you are just observing it, and you want to become 100% free. You are not justifying identity, because any identity for any reason in that pig farm is confusion. You are the eagle. Your self-respect is from beyond. So you stay in that self-respect. So this is a nice positioning to take, and then you will observe things continue to dissolve, and then you continue to nourish that higher perspective, and the feelings, emotions come from there. They're different. The old ones are replaced by something that is nobler. For next few minutes, we come to simple practice. Our first step is we use paras. And with paras, we are able to see with 100% clarity. If something is temporary, we can see it as temporary. If something is fictional, we see it as fictional. We can see the physical world for what it is. See the temporary nature of it. We can see our world beyond that, beyond the story. And quite pleased to see the radical that our world is invisible. It is in the image of the sky. And the true family and the true self, like a tiny living star. This is the true self. Totally separate from everything that we know about the story. Separate, different to the role. As we said, camel is different, completely different to the actor. So this invisible actor is more like an invisible witness, observer. And he's immortal and he's noble. He needs nothing from anywhere for his existence. And nothing can harm him, even the slightest. His life is one of silent joy, silent intoxication. Silently is aware he's very lucky. He is in truth. He is not living in some delusion, not living in a story. He is in truth. He knows the extraordinary truth of everyone. All are immortal. And nature of everyone is happiness. They all are happy. As we continue on our journey in the sky and on earth, whether we are in the world of the stars or whether we come in the world of camels, elephants, the drama characters, we understand the truth and the option to see the world the right way. Thank you.
Would this be a homework, the option to see the world the right way?
Yes, nice. But other long-term homework for us is to be introspective and observe the different identities in ourselves, different times.
Absolutely practical. And then on the other side, keeping this 4 steps and the quality effort. Yeah, good homework. Workshop of Life starts now, and have a good time. We'll see you in 24 hours. And thank you for those questions. We've acknowledged, I think, 3 great questions. We'll start with that tomorrow. Enjoy. Thank you. See you.